Donald Trump's downfall is karmic, and it's happening right now. Let's take a look. Welcome to Trevor's Tarot, Astrology, and Spirituality. First off, huge thank you to everybody who's subscribed. Thank you for liking, watching, and commenting on the videos. I truly appreciate it. So the downfall's happening in real time. Of course, there's a bunch of speculations about his health now, in particular about his cognitive ability, which is the karma for going after Joe Biden and others for being what he deems as low IQ, although I've said this many times, I'm pretty sure if we were to test, he's not exactly up there on that scale. The looking weak and feckless is something that he detests, and the European media in particular referred to him as weak and feckless, and Gavin Newsom called him boring and insignificant. Andy Bashir called him irrelevant. And the European Union is strongly united against his nonsense with Greenland. So it's like, and he's going to lose some court cases coming up too. That hasn't happened yet. But, the American public has turned on him. Well, not that he ever had more than, 40% of the American public, but even his supporters have turned on him. People do not like what's going on in the streets. His legacy will be forever tarnished. And we're watching it happen in real time. And while we've talked about some of the coping mechanisms we can employ and why we feel the way we feel on this channel, I thought, I'll be posting this on Friday. I think we can go into the weekend with a little bit of hope, because what we saw in Europe and from political leaders in Europe in particular, and even some in the United States, were people that were willing to attack him and put him into his place in the sense of, you're not really that powerful. And that's probably the thing that he probably detests the most. The bruise on the back of his hand, I really think he got angry and hit something by accident with the back of his hand. They say he hit it on a desk, but it's kind of hard to hit that part of your hand on a desk, right? I guess you can hit it on the side, but it seems unlikely that you'd hit it that hard, but that's neither here nor there. He's erratic. We're watching him self-destruct in real time. His policies in particular are dangerous and erratic and scary. Absolutely. But they're also being pushed back against. So there's a reason to be hopeful as we enter this weekend, the star card. And no, I'm not saying that he's going to disappear this weekend or anything like that. I'm just saying this week had a lot of positives to the story of his decline. And I don't think we should let that go unnoticed, because we all need a little bit of positivity. Does that mean that the weekend's going to be free of any sort of bad news? I don't foresee any, but it certainly doesn't mean that. I think a lot of us are going to be hunkered down on the East Coast because of the winter storms. So, and in the South. So I think, there's just I feel a lot of optimism today. So just for reference, I'm recording this early Friday morning. I did my meditation and my scrying, and it had like a warm glow to it. Like everything feels like it's falling into place. And maybe the storyline hasn't gone exactly as I've seen as far as the time goes, but the big overarching storyline has happened almost exactly the way we've talked. From the Epstein files becoming a big story in the summer and into the fall, his health becoming a big concern in the fall. All of these things are playing out. And I think that's why maybe I have a little bit of an optimistic look. The Seven of Pentacles, the seeds have already been planted. People know he's going away, whether that be physically, which I do think that is, or just he goes away because he loses power. And in the sense that he doesn't have any political capital left. It is going to be really hard to convince Republicans to go along with anything as we head into the 2026 elections. And then the Republicans will lose the 2026 elections, and then he really won't have all the branches of government at his disposal, and he'll have a real check, should he still be around, which I don't think he will be. But that's, complete and utter downfall, the Ten of Swords, that's what's coming, the end of this very dark cycle of American history, of world history. It's actually even a bigger cycle than that. From my perspective, it's the end of the abusive patriarchy, right? It's going to be the rise of the divine feminine as we adjust to this age of Aquarius that we're in. You know, the way he resonated with certain religious groups is going to kind of make them break apart and splinter in various ways. And we'll just see that things are going to really dramatically change over the next decade or so. So I think the cycle is, yes, him ending. It is his downfall. But it's also a bigger cycle of the old guard running things, of the old guard having this outsized say in what happens in the world. And I think as we move into the next generation taking over leadership roles, we'll find that once again, we start moving towards equality, towards progress, and this backsliding that's been going on over the last year in particular, and one might argue the first time he was president as well, that's coming to an end. It's never a smooth slope up a hill, right? Society doesn't just make progress. It has to make progress. There has to be people that ruin it, and then we have to better that. And so that's what we're seeing. But in real time, what we're seeing is somebody being humiliated by his own standards. Now, from the outside observing standards, you might not say, he's being humiliated, but by his own standards, he very much is. The Page of Wands, these fiery messages, things like Gavin Newsom calling him insignificant. If somebody called me insignificant, I would probably agree with them. In the sense of, I don't think I'm particularly significant in the grand scheme of the universe, and probably not even in the grand scheme of planet Earth. And, it makes sense, right? But, an egotist and a narcissist, that's like one of the worst things that you can say to them, because they actually think they are significant, which is why they're so hard to live with, deal with, be around, right? Those of you that have experienced it firsthand, and I know there's a number of you that watch the channel that have, because we've talked about it in the comment sections and in various other places, know what that's like. The Eight of Swords, he's being trapped and confined to this very narrow definition. He's going to be thought of as weak, ill, erratic, mad. Feckless is the word that I think is more apt. But, these are the only conversations that are going to go on around him. There isn't going to be, he did this good, or he did this well, or, there are no more wins. Even in MAGA world, there are no more wins for him. It's over. It's done. everything now is just part of the downfall. Joe Rogan has turned on him over the ice. And, I think most people look at these things and there are really three groups here. There's the group that watches this channel and thinks like us, that are just flabbergasted and disgusted. And then there's a smaller group that's ambiguous, which is not good. And then there's a bigger group that still thinks that he walks on water. That's in for a rude awakening, right? But the group that's disgusted is by far a big majority, especially if you count the world population and not just the United States. But even in the United States, it's a majority. So, everything is going to be framed around his health. It's going to be framed around his inability to articulate ideas, his inability to govern, his inability to follow rules. And yes, there'll be times where it'll be frightening and things like that. I'm not claiming it won't, but what I'm saying is that it is very clear to me from the meditations and the scrying that he's on the way down. This is already happening. You don't ever really see like the decline in real time unless you're looking for it, right? And so, if you're feeling discouraged, just take a look at what he looked like, 12 months ago and what he looks like now. It's dramatic. His health has really gone downhill. And normally, this would be something I'd have empathy for, but, this is a person who's caused great harm to a lot of people, so not really empathetic towards him. And also, he's somebody that prides himself on this idea of being strong and stuff. So that's why I say it's karmic that we're now referring to him as weak and ill and irrelevant, insignificant. Judgment. That's exactly what, perhaps I should have pulled this card before I started my last little rant there, but that's exactly what we're doing. That's what the people around the world are doing. What has he accomplished really, other than destruction? And yes, that's something we need to worry about and we need to rebuild, and things will be okay. They really will. But he's united countries that were never united before. He's united groups of people that were never united before. He's created a backlash that has some positive aspects to it. Now, living through it with real time, nothing seems positive. It just seems, painful. But people have definitely passed their judgment. The Four of Pentacles, stability, it has made us reevaluate and reconsider what it means for us to be stable and secure, and not as a country, but as individuals. And, whether it's, keeping those extra canned goods in the cupboard, or, a little bit of extra cash on hand, or, forgoing buying this product so that we can save a little bit of money just in case. These are the things that have kind of changed in behavior and people, especially in the United States. So, I think it'll be a long time before we take our security and our stability for granted. And this is something that he wants to take away from us, right? But really, he kind of reinforced it in a weird way. Now, no, we don't feel stable on the global settings, right, or in the national setting, but individually, we might feel a little bit more stable. And that's not true for everybody, but I do think it's true for quite a few of us. The Knight of Cups, emotional messages coming forward. That's what we're seeing. We're seeing him act out in real time his incoherence. His erratic behavior is a symptom of his illness. his cognitive decline is right in front of us. And so all of these things that he used to use to attack other people, oh, Joe Biden doesn't even know where he is, and Maxine Waters is low IQ, this person's low IQ. People are realizing that this is just him talking about himself, essentially. It's finally, like, the page has turned, and these things don't land anymore. They're just like Gavin Newsom said, they're boring. They're insignificant. That doesn't mean they don't have real barbs to them, right? They do, but it just means that it's a tired old play song from a tired, weak, frail man. And I think, normally I don't think it's always a great thing to take, hope from people's downfalls, but in this case, I think it is. I think that's entirely what this was designed to do. The Five of Cups loss, and this will be, the Minor Arcana Death card, his loss, his passing, if you want. So there's a lot of reasons to hope here. The media, the world, the political world have narrowed him down into this small range where we're not talking about any accomplishments. We're only talking about bad things. There is no positive stories about him being told. And this is just going to continue until he's gone. And so that's why I say his downfall is karmic, and it's happening right now. He, in a weird way, has strengthened our notion of security, and him being, ill and us noticing that is really going to accelerate, I think, this idea that the cycle's going to end, and not just his cycle, that's going to end for sure, but because everybody's cycle ends, but the cycle of, this toxic masculinity, this white supremacy, all of these things are slowly winding down. So we'll expect emotional messages, fiery messages, passing really hard judgment on him, the Page of Wands, the Page of Cups, and the Judgment card. And, the seeds have been planted, like he planted them himself. He set up the definition of what weak looks like, and now he's fulfilling that prophecy. And that's why I say it's karmic. Let's see what's underneath here, and then we'll throw a few oracle cards to wrap this up. The High Priestess, things going on behind the scenes that we can't see. It's worse behind the scenes. We'll start to see it. We'll get news stories out probably after he's gone, but we're living in a new reality. Things have changed, the Ace of Pentacles. So I think there's reasons to hope that things are going to get better. And no, I'm not suggesting that the next United States government is going to be better. I'm suggesting it'll be different, and it won't be him. And then after a couple of elections, things will really get better. Things will be better, but just mostly because they'll be more predictable. Okay, so what are we supposed to learn from this? Let's take this to the personal level here. What are we supposed to learn from this downfall? So this is the Akashic Records Oracle deck. What are we supposed to learn from this downfall? I think we'll take this one. Soul Whisper. Your soul is whispering its deepest desires and truths to you. In the quiet moments, listen closely. It's guiding you towards your authentic path. I think his downfall in a lot of ways, because things have been so difficult, has really allowed us some time to be quite introspective. And that's certainly not meaning that this is a good thing or a bad thing. It's meaning that's just a thing. So I think, you know, people have really learned about themselves. I think people are less likely to define themselves with labels by job titles and stuff than they were before this downfall. Scattered energy. You have too much on your plate and you've lost focus. This is causing you to feel exhausted and overwhelmed. Prioritize your well-being and create a new plan. Well, the scattered energy is caused from the downfall and from him. So, you know, not exclusively, but definitely he contributes to it. So make sure we're doing self-care. You know, we're going to need this over the coming weeks and months. And even after he's gone, we're still going to need to focus on self-care as we heal. And then find the lesson. Something has happened and it has stopped you in your tracks. In reality, it was simply a teaching where you were needing to grow. There is no such thing as failure, so pick yourself up, learn from it, and keep going. So I think, you know, this, I get the card, I get the meaning of the card. I don't particularly like it, but in the sense of everything happens for a reason, I don't particularly like that kind of saying. But I think what is true here on a personal level is we have come through adversity and we're dealing with adversity. And I think that's the lesson. The lesson is we know we can handle things that are unpleasant. Doesn't mean we handle them well. Doesn't mean we don't yell. Doesn't mean we don't scream. It doesn't mean we don't, you know, occasionally lash out at the TV. It just means that we can handle them. And so our strength has grown while his strength has diminished. And I think that's the big lesson here. So, all right, I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend. And if you're in the path of the winter storm, stay warm and safe. And I'll be back with another video soon.